Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Yes, the doctor is in. Welcome to USA Global TV, home of Talking Heads, and a big shout out to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio out of New York, especially Chris Roberts. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is A World of Difference. Joining me is my friend and colleague and co-host, Mr. Hardeep. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Jacalyn. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. It's always wonderful to see you. You always have this great glow about you, this positive energy, this can-do attitude.
Thank you, Jacalyn. That's really sweet. You have exactly the same.
Well, thank you so much. Since I saw you last, I've actually moved. So it was quite an eventful week or so, moving from one part of the U.S. to the other. So I'm grateful I got the studio set up and we're rolling again.
Excellent. Excellent. Really looking forward to the show today as well, Jacalyn.
I am too. And you brought us a wonderful guest. And before we bring out Chris, I'm going to spotlight you. And if you could just give a little bit of background about the wonderful work that you're doing, I think it's really important for our audience to be able to connect and understand who we are and why we're doing this show. This show is A World of Difference and what that means to you.
Sure, Jacalyn. Thank you. Well, Kaleidoscope is all about sort of encouraging people with disabilities to be the best that they could be in every aspect of their lives, really. And A World of Difference is a show that gives them a platform to be able to talk about the things that are important to them. And we really want people that come onto the show to be able to inspire other people to really be the best that they could possibly be. We want this show to help to change perceptions of people that are listening around the world towards disabled individuals or people that think differently, and really sort of give them opportunities that they deserve. So I think, and one of the big things about the show is that whilst we're really excited to get sort of big named guests, we also want everyday people that have got everyday stories, that have achieved some remarkable things, like our guest today, who we'll talk about very shortly, Chris Wood, who, as a father of two disabled children, has also really pushed something forward that's really quite remarkable to an incredible stage. So it's these stories of passion and inspiration that we really want to get across through the World of Difference show.
Thank you so much. We want people to know that this is a safe space for them to share their story, and that we're very supportive. It's a welcoming community, and Hardeep and I are doing our best to make you feel comfortable and welcome. So Hardeep, you had an incredible thing happen with a posting that went viral, and I'd love for you to share that and tell our audience more about it.
Sure. Well, let me share my screen right here so everyone can see the post. What happened on the 18th when we actually had our first show, Jacalyn, was that it was actually Ishan's birthday, and much to my shock, as we were very innocently doing our show, this post that you can see on screen was beginning to go viral. And I woke up the following morning and suddenly his post had over 1 million views on LinkedIn, which was absolutely insane. I never imagined in a million years that such a simple post would have that effect. And obviously LinkedIn is quite a business platform as well, so you don't ordinarily think people would resonate with stories like this. But I think it goes to show how people are beginning to think in the world today, that, yes, LinkedIn is about business, but people want authentic, genuine stories too. And, within 24, 48 hours, the numbers were at 2 million, 3 million. And then sort of, 2 or 3 days later, he'd had over 4 million views. And all of a sudden I had thousands of invitations. There were thousands of comments. There were thousands of reactions. And my life changed overnight, Jacalyn. I think I understood what a celebrity feels like when they suddenly get all these responses and comments and invitations and phone calls. And it was really quite mind-blowing. But the effect that it had on me was that it helped me to realize, first of all, what's important out there? What are people thinking? What are people feeling? And, obviously as a parent of a disabled child, I was approached by a lot of other parents of disabled children that actually started asking lots of questions, Jacalyn, about disability and about my journey and their journey. And they started sending me photos. And two things that happened very briefly, which were really special, Jacalyn. The first thing that happened was there was a young lady who lost her brother over 3 years ago, and he was disabled, very similar to Ishan. And she, after reading Ishan's story, decided that she was going to write about her late brother 3 years later. So that was absolutely incredible. And then there was another individual that was feeling very, very low about his son, and wondering what the future was going to be like, and in a really, really bad state, Jacalyn. But when he saw the love that another parent could have for a child that was considerably more disabled than his child, then he actually felt very inspired by that as well. So, the other things that came out of this was that we were able to set up on LinkedIn the first group for working parents of disabled children. And I was actually approached by the head of product for LinkedIn that they're starting a new pilot for groups, and they wanted to put our platform, our group, onto their platform and open it out to other parents of disabled children on LinkedIn. So the ripple effect of something that's so innocent like this has been quite remarkable. And it's really sort of helped all of a sudden us to direct our journey and our mission and our purpose in a totally different way. And I think one of the reasons actually I selected Chris Wood today was because he's also a parent of a severely disabled child. So I thought there was a very nice link to that. So that was the story that I wanted to share that I thought was quite remarkable, Jacalyn.
That's a brilliant story. Congratulations. And I'm wondering, with all these people reaching out to you, do you feel this obviously sense of joy, but also a sense of responsibility?
Yeah. Very much so, and that's spot on. And actually, I'm beginning to get other parents to help me to answer some of the questions as well. So it's not just on me, because I don't know everything. I've become a facilitator, but actually we all need to work together to be able to support each other at this point, I think.
I think so too. And things happen for a reason. And you are, as I mentioned, you are just this incredible beacon of light, and people can relate to you. And thank you for your transparency and your courage to go ahead and share your feelings, because you shared with our audience how you felt as a parent, how you feel today. And now you're inspiring other people to share their stories. I think that's truly beautiful.
Thank you, Jacalyn. Thank you.
So tell us about Chris, and then we'll bring him out.
So Chris is a really fascinating character. He's somebody that I met back in 2015. Kaleidoscope did a disabled entrepreneurs conference. I think it was the first one we'd ever done in the UK with NatWest. And Chris came along with two of his adorable children. Both of them are disabled. And I remember standing up on the pedestal, the podium, and just sort of looking around and seeing this father with two of his children in wheelchairs, and really sort of having a massive amount of admiration for him, because he related to me. I could relate to him being a father in Ishan. And over the years, I got to know Chris really well. And I feel very privileged to call him a very dear friend of mine. And he has had a mission, which is to change the travel industry so that children, so people like his children that are in wheelchairs, motorized wheelchairs, can actually get onto aeroplanes and travel to different countries. And I'm going to let him talk about his story, but it's quite remarkable what he has achieved over the last 5 to 6 years. And I'm extremely proud of him as a parent, as an entrepreneur, and also the fact that he was recognized by the Queen recently with the MBE that he received. So very, very proud of him, Jacalyn. I think it would be fantastic to introduce him so we can hear his story.
Let's bring out Chris Wood. Welcome to the program, Chris.
My God, what an introduction, Hardeep. Jesus Christ. It's like having George Clooney and Brad Pitt in the same room, isn't it? It really is. And for those people that are just tuning in, I can assure you I've spoken to Hardeep today. And despite what it looks like, he hasn't been taken hostage. It is a fairly nice house. It's just not very well lit because he's having energy problems. So he's keeping the energy down. The whole world is suffering, and it's Russian gas, I guess. I don't know. Who knows?
Right.
But very nice introduction. Thank you very much. It's disabled children. I'm beyond that now, and I worry about this because I've got to say to people, well, they're actually young adults now, and I do struggle with that a little bit. But yeah, I'm 59, and yeah, my mother's nearly 80, and I'm still her child. You know, so. You still have to say, yeah, young children, or children anyway, but they are my children. They're 26 and 28. I will actually, Jacalyn, touch on something Hardeep says as a parent, I suppose. But when they came along, you look for information, you look for help, and you look for support. And 25 plus years ago, that just wasn't around, and the internet has changed all of that. I would also argue that there's more parents, perhaps like myself and Hardeep, and I can think of tens and 20s, 30s of others in our situation. And we just want to help because we wish we were around 25 years ago and there was very little around. So you feel you can bring something to other people. Would I be right in saying that, Hardeep?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. I think that when Ishan, 15 years ago, when he was born, for the first 5 years, I didn't have any contact with any parents, and that was the most critical time because that's when, as a parent, you are the most vulnerable. But I couldn't agree with you more. I think now there's WhatsApp groups, there's Facebook groups, there's LinkedIn groups, there's community centers. So it's much better than it's ever been, but it's still quite disjointed, isn't it? There's not something that sort of collectively brings us all together. It's more localized according to where we live or our networks, right?
It can be. It's either very localized or right at the top. And I think, and we're at this stage perhaps, and Jacalyn, I've got to say this word, siloed, where there's a lot of people work in silos and we're all trying to kind of bat for the same team, yet we work in silos. It's difficult to bring that group together because probably half of it is about passion of what we do. But I think things like what Hardeep's doing can bring people together. I'm not sure what I'm doing in aviation can, because I'm literally trying to invent something which has got to be industry driven. It's not going to work any other way, but Hardeep can bring the community together with what he's doing. And I think that's a great vision, absolutely great vision, and one I really like.
Well,
I have a question.
Yeah. Go, Jacalyn.
So I have a question for both of you. So as someone who's not a parent, and maybe for people who are new parents or they have young children at home, what are those feelings? Hardeep, you mentioned for 5 years you didn't connect really with any adults. What are those feelings that you have inside that maybe you don't even realize it, but you're putting up a wall and you're not reaching out?
Do you know, I'm gonna answer that question a lot more honestly than I usually would, Jacalyn, only because I've been asked it recently by a lot of other parents following this post. So I personally went through panic attacks, anxiety, what I would call postnatal depression, but actually for a man, which is much less heard of than it is for ladies. I went through insomnia. And actually, I had some suicidal thoughts during the first 5 years as well, because, the marriage wasn't working very well. The job, You know, it was very, very difficult for me to hold down the job. I was awake at night. I was tired all the time. And when you're tired, you lose perspective, right? So, and this is what I've learned, is that perspective is critical. So I found it very, very challenging. I was alienated by a lot of my friends. Being in the Asian community, there were a lot of people that felt that I was cursed, that, you know, that people were sort of, Ishan was teaching me a lesson, or I was being punished for having been a bad person before. Oh, Chris, it was awful. You know, it was really, really awful. And when you go to parties, you'd often be sort of, you know, I especially if I went with Ishan, I'd have a lot of people that would just ignore me, or they wouldn't come up and talk to me. So it was a very, very lonely place, actually, for the first 5 years. But I don't know, Chris, if your experience was similar or dissimilar. I mean, how was yours different to that?
Totally different, Hardeep. As we moved along, so they have no real diagnosis. But as we started out and what we both Taylor Jordan, that there was something genetic and they would never walk, that we didn't know what we were going to get, but all we knew we had a disability. And I just went, oh, all right, let's get on with it then. Just get on with it. I didn't see it as a problem. I didn't see it as a difficulty. As they've got older, the challenges are more, but that's not with me. That's with the outside world. So friends have been good. I would suggest there were, you know, when you think of as your children grow up and parties and things like that, some of that could have been difficult with wheelchairs, accessing properties, and just tried to make it work. I never really had an issue with anything really, but you know, my marriage, like Hardeep's, that fell apart. But that really wasn't the children. I don't think that was something very, very different. But we were strong together for the first 12 years plus 14 years of the children growing up. I just felt I was more interested in not so much what they can't do. Is okay. I wanted to take them to concerts. I wanted to take them to festivals. I said, well, how can we do it rather than the barriers? And sometimes it was a challenge, but even the challenge was kind of fun. And so yeah, I never really had the bad experience that Hardeep has, but that's not to say that I know that's quite common as well, Hardeep, with parents. It can make marriage very difficult because everybody's very tired, and there was times when that was like that. But then again, I had a friend of mine whose son was 14, coming home wide-eyed, doing drugs, completely in the wrong place, and they was as tired as I was and mentally absolutely distraught. So I looked at that and thought, well, at least I know what I've got. At least I think I know what I've got. So, I felt everything's relative. But they were tough times. And now as we move on and both me and Hardeep can reflect and go, okay, well, what else? Who else out there has, and maybe you and I, Hardeep, having these discussions, people will see some parity there. Who can we help? Who is in the places that we were when our children were very young?
Yeah, exactly. And it would be really lovely to share, Chris, is I love what you said about sort of just seeing your children as children. You've done some amazing things with them, especially Geordie and the Formula One. Why don't you share that story? Because that's an amazing story.
Okay, it's a great story. So Jacalyn, my son, was at Trelaw School, and he was keen to go to university, which I was backing him 100%. And I said to him, look, if you get into uni, pass your exams, I'll take you to the Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. I think this is 2016. Anyway, so bugger me, he did get it. So that's cost me a fortune. So me and my friend Martin flew out to Abu Dhabi with Geordie, because with Geordie, I can only really go with a friend because I need that support, and especially around an aircraft, ironically. But I was already into six to 10 months into starting to research. So we went out to Abu Dhabi. Now, before I went, on Twitter, I tweeted a lovely lady called Natalie Pinkham, who's part of the Sky F1 team, and said, my son's just got into university. He's got a disability in a wheelchair. Any chance of meeting the Sky crew? And I figured that I'm going to stand a lot more chance than I would at Silverstone or any of the European circuits. And she did. She came back. We swapped numbers and said, give us a call once you're out there. Well, she rang me and we all went up to the Sky F1 Centre. And Johnny Herbert, Damon Hill, Martin Brundle, they all come out. We had some pictures, said hello. It was really nice. I thought that was the end of it. Come to the end of the race on the Sunday night, she said, Chris, are you still around? We said yes. And again, keeping it short, we went. She invited us into the paddock. And whereupon we just met the drivers. We put our phones away, by the way. I told Geordie and Martin, no phones, put it to memory. And plus we didn't have passes, so we were playing it a little bit. And Natalie introduced us to a few people. One of those was a journalist called David Tremaine, who's a very eminent F1 journalist. And David, first of all, spoke to Geordie, didn't speak to me. And he offered to be his mentor through university, and he has been. And you just couldn't buy that anywhere. It's a great guy and has got Geordie so many doors open, and much to the envy of many of his classmates at university, I think. But it was just a simple tweet. That's all it was, simple tweet. And there we were in Abu Dhabi, mixing it with the big boys.
Phenomenal.
It's a great story. It really
is.
No,
it's really good. And it's just a great story. So it more by luck and judgment, but you have to see those doors and open them, I think, Dr. Jacalyn.
When you have the opportunity. And what about a little bit about Taylor, Chris?
Yeah, so Taylor is a mad skier, and she loves skiing down the slopes. I mean, I don't go on holiday, Jacalyn, to get cold. I really don't. I can't understand. If God wanted us to ski, he would have put 2 planks of wood on our feet. I don't understand the concept of it. It's just cold. But she loves it. And she goes on a sit ski with a group of people, and they just go down slopes very, very fast. She has a death wish, I have to say. There's all sorts of things she wants to try. And as much as I say to her, do everything you can, there's comes a fine line where death is also one of the options. So I say, no, just pull back on, trying to put a bloody suit on and just jet out of the water at 50 miles an hour. That will kill you. So yeah, we have to draw a line somewhere. But she's still very keen, and she's just an adrenaline junkie, I think.
Oh, and that's probably a very nice segue, talking about skiing and holidays, into your mission and vision in life and the air travel industry. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to revolutionize travel?
So back in 2015, this was a holiday with my daughter in Mexico. And I think the change here, and probably Hardeep, something you resonate with, is when they move from children to adults, which is circa around 17, 18, depending, and the world changes. So we went on holiday to Mexico, and the flight back was pretty grim. Not only just getting to the toilet, but my daughter's support. She was out in a wheelchair. She'd already had one wheelchair broken, and the wheelchair, as we landed in the airport, took an hour to come to us. And that's where I started the journey. And I was told to go to Hamburg quite early on by a colleague of mine called Graham Race. Go to Hamburg, Chris. So this is the biggest aviation exhibition probably in the world. And I go there and I'm thinking they're going to hang me. They're absolutely going to hang me, nail my face on a dartboard somewhere. So as I was doing at the time, as any campaigner or lobbyist will tell you what to do, is you go and try and get in to meet the people and say hello and share a coffee. So they very kindly gave me a free pass into this exhibition, which would cost several £1,000s. And I just wandered around meeting people. And then something strange happened. I was already had the ear of a chap called Paul Priestman. Paul Priestman runs Priestman Good, who are probably the biggest designers of aircraft internally in the world. And Paul said to me, Chris, we're having a coffee. I'm on the stage. I'm doing a 10-minute presentation on something we've invented and putting out there, but I'm going to mention what you're doing just for 60 seconds. Oh, that'd be great. So I'm sitting in the hall. Paul Priestman does for 60 seconds, relays a story of a Paralympian who had to crawl down an aircraft to get to a toilet, and literally just told the audience off. And so he stopped at about, so it was just a minute, and he pointed to me, and then he did his presentation, and he walked off. It was time of the break, and I walked out, and we were both deluged by delegates wanting to help, and including the press, who were not interested in Paul Priestman Good's presentation about what he said about accessibility, because Paul's voice is a very loud one, and people listen. So from there, I had Paul's support, and I just kept going, not here, but just in governments, flying around the world, and just meeting people from Airbus to Boeing to the supply chain to governments to regulators, and trying to get engaged. And we put out a press release last week with the consortium I put together, which is 3 of us, which is Paul Priestman, for Priestman Good, Nigel Smith of SWS certification. So Paul designs, Nigel makes sure they can go in an aircraft, and I just sit around and be me, really. Don't do a lot. I just delegate and bring my story to it. And I think the press release has been really good, and we've got we've got an airline subsidiary building it. So for the first time ever, it's become a reality, and close to, everybody tells me, Chris, this can happen now. This can happen. And an email from ICAO, which is basically the United Nations, putting the press release out. And that's quite something. I've been lobbying them for 5 years. So if you ever campaign and lobby and think, well, it's over if you don't get a reply from an email, think again. It takes a long time. It builds up momentum. I think it's built up momentum because nobody's ever turned around to me and said, because of the law of physics, Chris, it really can't happen 30,000 feet up in the air and in a cabin that's like, just a metal tube, Chris. No one said that. In fact, on the contrary, it can be done. You need to change a culture, Chris. It's not changing anything very difficult technically or engineering wise. I hope that makes sense, Jacalyn.
Yes, it does. I loved your voice impressions as well. So.
Yes, darling. I didn't realize you had that skill.
I said,
he's very talented on many levels. So, Chris, I'm wondering, over the last 5 years, if you could try to quantify it, how much time would you say that you've invested in this initiative that's so near and dear?
Well, it took over my life 2 or 3 years ago, really, and I decided that I had a normal job, I had a company, and I decided to get rid of that and focus on this full time. I also wanted to look at other things as well, like what Hardeep is doing with Kai, other things that are going on in terms of disability and accessibility around transport. But my core is definitely aviation, and so how much time have I spent? Well, I've spent I probably, I don't know, 20 to 30,000 of my own money just on flights getting around the world. And thank God Mr. Credit Card is around. I mean, there was one trip I did, I just about had enough on the end to get the flight, and I just lived on a bit of cash while I was out there, and that was a conference, might be in Florida actually, and just to meet people, and I was getting known. So now I get to speak at these conferences, so I don't have to pay to get in anymore, which is quite nice. In fact, I even get lunch free, which is even good. But I try to position myself as poacher come gamekeeper. It's a terrible phrase to use, but there is nobody really in aviation that looks at inside the cabin for accessibility. Lots around airports, lots around the transport and infrastructure around it, but actually inside that cabin where the seats are, where all 3 of us sit on a flight and go, there's no wheelchairs in here. Well, there ain't no wheelchairs because they're banned. That's the bottom line. They're only banned because no one's thought of working out how to do it properly, and it is a process. So I have spent quite a lot of time and money on this, but you never know. We have patented it. Jacalyn, I did go into this certainly very quickly to see that this was a business proposition. So what we've invented, we've stuck a patent and an IP on. Patent lawyers, man alive, what they charge an hour. We're in the wrong jobs. I tell you this now, we are in the wrong jobs. patent lawyers. So yeah, we're throwing money at that. And the hope is that what we've invented will actually take shape in the aircraft. And yeah, we're not going to earn a great deal out of it. It's more protecting the idea and make sure someone doesn't doesn't steal it. But secondly, I think if we're in control of doing it, we've got 3 great people, including me. Hey, I'm great. But we've around us, the 3 of us, we've got a network that can push this forward. So, you know, the old story, isn't it, Jacalyn? The dream team. I would have said that.
You know what, Chris, I so appreciate what you're doing. And if I can help in any way, I had an issue happen just quickly. I have a lot of health issues, but I have an airborne shellfish allergy. So I cannot be near shrimp or mussels or scallops. And I used to travel all the time for my career up until last year. And I was on a flight and I was in row 5 and I happened to hear them say in first class that, you know, do you want the chicken or the shrimp? And I thought shrimp. So I was in the window seat. So I rang the call bell and nobody would come over. And I asked the 2 guys next to me if I could get up because I thought I need to let them know because I could die. So end of the story, finally someone comes over and the flight attendant, and she said, airborne shellfish allergy, that's ridiculous. And I said, it's a real thing. It's a serious thing. So another flight attendant came back and said, well, how'd you walk through the airport and get by legal seafood at the restaurant? And I said, I don't know. What does it matter? I'm just saying this is a problem. I know I'm going to have to go to the hospital, whatever. So anyway, they made an announcement. We pushed back from the gate and the pilot came on and said someone had an issue. They were going to have to take us back. And of course, it was me, and everybody looked at me. And what I found getting off the plane was that they called catering, and supposedly catering has no idea what food's going to be on the flight. So long and short of it was they told me to only fly at night, wherever it was I was going. And I said, well, what if it's international? So I contacted the airline. I contacted the head of customer service, the top person, and someone came back to me, not that person. And I said, could you put like a drop down menu when you go to book your flight that if there's going to be food and if you have, an allergy, what it could be. And they went back and forth and they said, no, we recommend that you drive. So I haven't flown anywhere since then.
No way.
So that is a disability of a different kind.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there was, and I think something that's more common is nut allergies.
Yes.
And of course, airlines are always giving out packs of roasted peanuts before on the flight, and I think EasyJet have now stopped doing that. A lot of flights have stopped doing that. But for it's a real difficult one because I keep coming back to the fact that this is just a thin metal tube that flies around the sky, and we all like cheap prices, don't we? We can go there for what, $20 or whatever. So we pack them really tightly. It's the sheer nature of the beast, the way it's panned out. How we'd all love to sit in business class, and well, not your place, but with a bit of lobster thermidor and some rice or something like that. Perhaps you'd have, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Chef lobster. Can't do that. So I think we've got to kind of balance that with, how can you look after everybody? And it's a real tricky one. That's like trains. You can do it. I'm sure they're very much easier on a train. But yeah, I remember they've taken people with nut allergies much more seriously and pulled that off. I think they could do that with shellfish, though. Jesus Christ, I don't think that would be too much of a difficulty there. God, it's only first class. Were you traveling in first class, Jacalyn?
No, I wasn't. I was in regular coach, but I was surprised they were even serving food. Everything got so cheap that it's, bring your own this, bring your own that. So, but anyway, I digress. Just so that, that there are other things that people have going on with them that have them at a vulnerability stage, I guess I should say, when you're flying.
But Jacalyn, you could open this up a bit wider and argue that we are very much a global population. My brother lives in Spain. And therefore, my mother, who lives here, would like to go and see her other son a lot more. But of course, as she gets older, then there is going to come a point where she stops flying, not only because she's less mobile, but let's think of what else we're looking at. We're looking at Alzheimer's and dementia. Yeah, and that is quite prevalent now. So let's swing that around the other way. The airlines go, we can't do anything to these loyal customers that have paid thousands of pounds to us over the years. We're just going to let them go because we can't deal with it. That's a bad business idea. That is a bad business idea. No, facilitate them.
I agree with you. And, here in South Florida, and I've lived here before, so I'm recounting that. If you go to West Palm Beach, you're going to see a number of older folks who are in wheelchairs, and they're all lined up. And what would happen is they would take the person to the door of the plane, and then they have to somehow miraculously get from point A to point B. And it's heart-wrenching watching older people. They're trying to walk on a walker. There's not enough room, or there's a cane and it gets stuck in the road, as they go by. So I think this is a really huge issue all across the board.
And I'm getting closer to that point in time. I'm already looking at God's waiting room. So, it's just
I'm 58,
59.
so I'm right there.
Let's hope you guys have a long time to go.
We will, because we can use tech. That's why. But yeah, air travel is really interesting. And then you've also got the green side of things. Air travel is bad for the planet. Yeah, we all want to get somewhere quicker. So they're trying to look at bio-type fuels now. There's a replacement for Concorde coming out called Sonic Boom. And you think about it, they're looking at accessibility because they see they're going to be expensive seats. And like expensive cruises, the people that can do those, they're looking for luxury. And guess what? They're generally over 70. And they've got money to spend. Give me the money. There's the business case right there.
Show me the money.
Show me the money.
And when do you think you're a impersonator? I've seen you in a different light today, Chris. When do you think the impact of what you're trying to do is actually going to become a reality? How much longer do people have to wait, do you think?
So we're building the prototype. We were hoping to have the prototype out this month. But there have been delays, but it'll be early next year. So we have a prototype that we can show to people. Now, prototype in aviation world, the supply chain is lots of lumps of MDF with foam and plastic around it. However, airline directors like to see all the fluffy things with the logos and the seats and the buttons and so on and so forth. So we need to take it up to that stage, and then the airlines will sign it off. So realistically, my God, my cup is always half full. I'm going to say summer of next year, there'll be a prototype out there, and we will be looking to, it will be the Alexander McQueen, and we'll be going, this is the Alexander McQueen for this year, and we would like you to buy this model so that you can wear it in the winter and retrofit all your aircraft, and the regulators will come in and go, well, one airline fitted it, and why should the others not do it? Because this is not creating a harmonized journey for our passenger who already flies with the risk. So airlines, we'd like you to think about harmonizing it and putting it in all your airlines, and you've got 18 months to do it. That's the ideal world. So we have all aircraft fitted with it. So when someone flies with a disability from Heathrow and they're flying to Sydney, or they're flying to Brazil, or they're flying to Florida, the same journey happens all the time. And so they haven't got to get on an airline that hasn't fitted it, and you've gone, you're back to square one again. The wheelchair will get smashed, and that's it.
And are there any particular types of wheelchairs that you are focusing on, or is it quite wide and generic?
So I'm focusing on power wheelchairs because I'm selfish and it's for my children. But there's millions like it around the world, so I don't feel so bad now. However, that is also the hardest nut to crack. So if we crack that, then, which we have done, and also in a single aisle aircraft, because there are more single aisle aircraft flying now because they travel further. I don't know, I think they put cow poo in them or something now. I don't know, they make them fly further. So we crack the hardest nut. So those will be for power wheelchairs, and then we'll also look at manual wheelchairs. But if you think about the people I know in manual wheelchairs, would be very happy to sit in a passenger seat, certainly on a long haul. On a short haul trip, say, I don't know, let's say London to Paris, they might say, no, I just sit in my chair. I know it's there. I can get off. There's no risk of it being lost. But I think we cracked the hardest nut. There's also thousands of different types of manual wheelchair. There's a lot of power wheelchairs, but not as many. But I also feel people in power wheelchairs are the ones that need the most support. They fly at the greatest risk. They fly with the risk of a $20,000 wheelchair being smashed, a $20,000 wheelchair being lost, not arriving at the destination. And it's not like they can go down to Walmart and just pick another one off the shelf. These are bespoke, absolutely bespoke. It's made to fit my son and my daughter. They would never fit anybody else. So if anybody at an airport thinks you can just hand one of these people another wheelchair and say, well, you get off with your holiday and that, well, here's, you wear size 8 shoes, here's a pair of size 6, go and walk around for a few days in those, see how you feel.
So, Chris, just to clarify, so what you're proposing is that these wheelchairs, each individual has their own wheelchair and is able to have it with them on a flight, as opposed to the airline already has the chairs in the plane.
Now we're going to move to a situation. So this is in 2 parts. So the seat is one half, and the other half of the project, which we're working with Sunrise Medical, is to create a wheelchair that's fit to fly. I don't want to chew up too much of the time on this call on this, but effectively, if any one of us was to walk on an aircraft holding a wheelchair battery with all the wires hanging out, I think one of the 2 of the crew might say it's probably not the right thing to bring on an aircraft. So what I'm saying is we need to drill down on the power wheelchair, have everything on the table. Can the battery stay in there? Will it have to go in the hold? What about the materials? Are they flammable? What about the wheels? Are they pneumatic, or are they air wheels? Could they blow up under the pressure? There's so many things to think about. So the community have to understand that if they want this, and trust me, I'm top of that list, we're going to have to make compromises. And a compromise could be around that chair. But let's take ourselves back 25, 30 years. And, you know, maybe Hardeep has a recollection of this is both my kids have got mobility vehicles where their wheelchairs can go in them. Well, they weren't so commonplace 25 years ago. Now, this isn't going to take that long by any means, but there has to now be a sea change to look at wheelchairs. So the ones that my son and daughter use every day can perhaps also go in the cabin of an aircraft with them.
It's amazing.
Brilliant.
Not there yet, getting there. Going to get very drunk when it happens.
Do you know what I think is amazing about this? And this is so interesting, Jacalyn. On the show today, you have 2 fathers of disabled children that have both been employed in the past in different things, but have then become entrepreneurs because of what the effect of their children has had. And in your case, Chris, you know, you could have been doing some wonderful things in life, but all of a sudden your mission has become getting wheelchairs onto airplanes because of your children.
But we both have that mentality. I would never call myself an entrepreneur. I wouldn't call myself. I'm just like a leper in a bakery, really, Jacalyn. I've just got my finger in a few pies, you know. So
you are an entrepreneur. Trust me, you are relentless. The quality that you need. The qualities that you need when you're an entrepreneur is you must never give up. You must never walk away. You've got to be resilient. You've got all of those in masses. Yeah.
But don't you think how technology has changed, and you know, certainly with cars, and even if you look, both my children don't talk, but my son uses technology to speak, and my God, 25 years ago, 10 years ago, even the changes that are happening with tech, which makes the whole of the disabled community, and I'm talking a wide spectrum from autism to cerebral palsy to whatever it may be, the world is better. Well, the tech is better. The human race don't change much, but nevertheless, the tech is better, and a lot of the good tech that we use now has come from entrepreneurs and blue sky thinkers from the tech side of things, who create stuff for those people with a disability, and it moves out to dare I say, the able-bodied world, which we should come together a little bit better.
Absolutely. Chris, by the way, I don't know if there's other people out there watching live or on the replay, I was not aware of all those potential aspects of the chair itself, with the battery and the tires, having it on a plane, what could happen with tires exploding or battery having to go in the hold. So I think that you bringing awareness to that is really important.
And the community, I have been, when I can on interviews, just say that to the community, that, you know, we have to really think of how we would view somebody carrying a large battery with wires hanging out, stick it in the overhead locker and sit down. I think we'd be a little bit worried. So we have to look at, it's a bit of a NASA situation. It's all those what ifs, isn't it? So, and this is how safety regulators work in airlines. What if? And let's face it, airplanes really don't fall out of the sky very often, thank the Lord. But however, it's because these guys have one eye on safety. And, you know, they go to bed with 98, 99% safety. They wake up in the morning and it's dropped to percent. They don't sleep until they've got it back up again.
Really valid points. Chris, how can our audience help you? What can we do for you?
You can give me a holiday in Mustique for 2 weeks, and with Kate Winslet just at my side. Alternatively, and the easiest way is just the awareness, really. It's just making sure that this journey continues in a positive nature as well. There's still stories on the internet, and I see them and I understand them, of wheelchairs being broken and people being manhandled, and I think the airlines now are facing their final hour in resisting this, because no longer can this carry on when you've got regulators and governments absolutely being pestered by their constituents to bring airlines in line with, I don't know, other forms of transport. I mean, let's face it, airlines are being beaten by a taxi, man. You know, a taxi can get a wheelchair in, but can't get a wheelchair in an aircraft in 2021. What's going on? What's happening?
Well, Chris is changing that. Chris in the dream team.
The dream team, and absolutely, I'm trying to, and we're certainly, and you know, it has taken over my world, and I've learned a lot. I have learned an awful lot, and I'm sure you might say the same, Hardeep, on your journey. We never stop learning, and I still am today. I constantly listening out for things that I should know. But yeah, I think I can build a plane now, Jacalyn. Wouldn't be a very good one. Probably a paper one, you know. But
I can see you doing stand-up comedy or a feature-length movie as well.
Absolutely.
No, we get Brad Pitt to play me when it comes up, and obviously when we're doing interviews, it will be George on the other side as Hardeep. It's always very recognised. I'm not going to let that drop. You know that, Hardeep.
I know. I'm not sure if I've told Jacalyn that yet, but Jacalyn, yeah. I've always said that I look like George Clooney. You know, like if you go like this, there's a thank you.
I can see that. I can see that.
A younger version.
No, you look great. Well, what about me? Who can I be?
Oh, dead easy. That is, what's her name? Christiansen, Sophia Christiansen. Is it? Not Sophia Christiansen. Oh,
Sophia Loren, you mean?
Yeah. No, God, the woman. This is the problem with age, you see, Jacalyn. I had the name just there, and then Google said, "Yeah, we've gone offline," and so my brain is Google. Helen. No, God. It will come to me in a minute.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I would just say, Jacalyn, you are unique. There's only one of you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Or two of you if you got feedback.
No, that was yesterday. There's no feedback today, thank goodness. So
could we have two of you, Jacalyn? Would that be possible?
Definitely not. I would drive everybody crazy. That's for sure. Well, I've had so much fun. I didn't even take us to any of our commercial breaks, which is fine. But Chris, I'm going to spotlight you, and we'd love to have you back on. But please let our audience know how they can reach you. Obviously, it's in the comments. But for people listening on Business Talk Radio, what's the best way to reach you, and who should reach out?
In very simple terms, anybody can reach out to me. I had 3 degrees of separation. I've learned in aviation that walking around conferences that I might sit next to somebody with no disability, but they will turn around to me and say, "Yeah, Chris, my sister's in a wheelchair. I get what you're doing." Or as one lady told me over in Seattle, I think it was, "Chris, I've listened to what you say. I've sat next to you for the last 2 days. You don't know this. I have multiple sclerosis, the early onset of it. I know I won't be flying in a few years. So please, please, please get this done." So 3 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody who will want to do something. Just contact me on Twitter at Chris Wood, or just type Chris Wood Flying Disabled. I'm all over Google. Well, if you type that anyway. So if not, you'll find a Burnley footballer, which is really not what you want to see. It's great when he scores a hat-trick. On Twitter, it says Chris Wood. And, of course, it's the Burnley striker. But I feel quite comforted to know that, it's not quite as viral as Hardeep.
Way more vibrant than me, Chris.
The amount of energy here today is huge, just radiating
incredible.
through the screen. It is
Absolutely, Jacalyn. Yeah. I love the view out of your window as well. I take it that's a window, or is it just? No, it's not. Is it? It's just a picture.
It's a really high quality graphic.
Yeah. What is behind you? Is that Florida?
New York.
Oh, it's New York. Oh, of course it is.
New York.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I was
You're in Florida.
I just moved last week.
Okay.
So, yeah. But yep, and Business Talk Radio is out of New York. So, and my origin is in Pennsylvania area. So I'm a northerner at heart, but who likes the cold weather, to your point? And I'm not a skier either.
We're in England. We have no choice. It was freezing today. I had snow where I was.
Oh
Wow.
Yeah. I put the kids outside in the shed and I stayed in the warm. Because they've got to learn.
Oh my, Chris, you are hilarious. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to meet you. I love the work that you're doing, and you're welcome back anytime.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Hardeep and Jacalyn. And that's been really fun, actually.
It's been really fun listening to you, and actually it's a special show because it's on the eve of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities tomorrow as well. So it's really pertinent that we've raised all the different points that we have today about working parents of disabled children and what you've just raised as well. So we'd like to wish all of our listeners a very special day tomorrow, and actually every day should be a special day. We shouldn't just have one day to celebrate disability, but of course that's the way of the world. So we must celebrate the International Day. And
there's a day for everything these days, isn't it?
Yeah, there is.
There's a day for people that wear Rush shirts. I don't know. But what we also have to remember is, people like Hardeep, maybe me, I don't know, but we're dads, and there are other people who are youngsters and they are kids and they want to do something about it. And this whole generation thing, as we move forward and make the world a better place. And if you remember the Disabled Discrimination Act came in the 90s, thanks to people tying themselves to buses. So now I'm not going to tell anybody to tie themselves to the wheels of an aircraft. That's pretty not good, is it? So not the best idea for a campaign. However, there are young people coming through and they are pushing the accessibility and more rights for disabled people. And it's a generational thing. And I'm sure, hopefully, we'll have a more diverse and happier world when I move into my 70s and 80s and I'm sitting in a rocking chair watching Netflix or something. I don't know. Netflix and rocking. Is that a thing?
Brilliant. Fabulous.
Fantastic, wonderful discussion about something that's so important, and I'm grateful to both of you for bringing.
Thank you for inviting me, Jacalyn. She's very, very kind of you. It was most unexpected, and I have to say it's been a great evening.
Thank you for joining, Chris. You've been fantastic. Yes. Really entertaining. Really.
Good. Do I still get 40 quid?
I think it went down to 30, but no, I'm kidding.
Brilliant.
All right, Chris, thank you again. I just want to let our audience know that the show is available on any of our platforms, but I will have it replayed every day for the next week. So if you didn't get to see it today, you can go to any of our platforms, but it will look like it's live streaming again every day. So you can go over to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV, and you can subscribe and you can go to a World of Difference playlist and you can find it there, or you can go to any of our platforms and it'll be streaming live, so to speak, every day for the next week.
This is like, it's professional. This is really good.
Yeah,
none of the rubbish I'm normally on. I tell you this now.
And you didn't even get to see the brilliant commercials and sponsorships we have. So
yeah, I'm going to watch it again just to see the commercials. Have you had an accident in a wheelchair? Dial this number. There you go.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we have to close up for now. But Chris, thank you again, and look forward to hearing how things are going in this wonderful, very important initiative that you have. So best wishes.
Thank you very much, Jacalyn. Catch up with me in 6 months' time. Let's see how we've gone.
All right. Sounds good. You've got it.
Thank you,
Bye,
Chris.
Thank you,
Great
Hardeep.
to see
Thank you, Jacalyn.
Take care. Bye. Bye, Jacalyn.
And Hardeep, what is a great way for people to get in touch with you? I know so many people are reaching out to you already. It might be like, sorry, but we have to start a calendar for people, a diary for people to get in touch with you.
Well, if anyone just goes to www.kaleidoscope.group, we'd be delighted to hear from you. Anyone that's sort of linked to disability in any way, entrepreneurship, recruitment, anything really disability, we're really interested to listen to people. And of course, if there are people that would like to come onto our show, we'd like to hear from you too. So get in touch with Jacalyn through the links that Jacalyn's already mentioned, and we'd love to have you on to interview.
Thank you very much. And by the way, it's very easy to be on this show or any of our shows. You just go to drjacalyn.com and book your session. It's right across at the top, and you can book on any of our 20 weekly shows. We'd be happy to have you. All right, that concludes our show for today. Thank you again, Hardeep. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to close us out with a really wonderful video. I think I've played this for you before, Hardeep. It's called Nothing Is Wrong With Me. And the artist is from the UK. Her name is Sam Sarah. And I think it's just such a beautiful, the meaning behind it is really beautiful. And I'm really supportive of her work. So let's take a look at that. And then we'll be back tomorrow with more shows. Hardeep and I will be back next week. We'll see you again soon. Bye.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Bye. Bye, Jacalyn.
Bye.